What's up, guys? Welcome back to Among the Fence, my YouTube channel where I do music reviews. My name is Aaron, and if it's your first time seeing one of my videos, I'd like to welcome you to my channel where we just chill and talk about all the things that we love or hate. And if you got anything you want me to review, leave a comment below, let me know what it is, and I'll make it happen for you. But for today's review, we're going to be checking out the new album, Obsidian, by the band Northlane. Northlane is an Australian metalcore progressive metal band. They're like a metalcore band that likes to use a lot of synthetic electronic music. They started around 2009, and Obsidian is their sixth studio album. And I gotta admit that I'm not really a fan of Northlane. I've never really been all that interested in their music. I forget about them quite a bit until they pop up with like another single or something. I went through and listened to their album Alien. I wanted to do a review on it, and it just never ended up happening. But I did give it a listen, and I gotta admit I wasn't really feeling it. Sometimes I feel a little too overwhelmed when I'm listening to their music because there's just so much going on. There's like a very staticky riff, and then there's drums, and there's a synth beat, and the bass is doing something super crazy, and the vocals are all over the place from cleans to distorted. So I just never really been all that into the band, and after like 3 or 4 songs, I just kind of give up on them. But I gotta admit that the singles that were released for this album have been piquing my interest quite a bit. There's not really anything for the singles that I disliked all that much. It was all very well written, and the synth stuff was used very well. So I just wanted to dive into this album. I was very excited to finally do a Northlane review, especially something that I was finding myself interested in when I wasn't before. The album opens up with the song Clarity, which is basically about the backlash that the vocalist Marcus received from his friends and family after they were subjects of his last album, Alien. And this song is kind of like the closing chapter to that. Even though it's the opening song for this, it's like kind of like saying that he's no longer going to be venturing down that road anymore. We're moving on to something different. It starts out with a great electronic beat and kind of whispered, breathy vocals. The verse comes in with an eruption, and the vocals are very fierce, and the lyrics are cutthroat throughout this, honestly, throughout the entire album. The drum work is super energetic throughout this song. The chorus is basically like the intro, but it's amped up just a little bit more, and this song has a great progression. It goes through stressful moments into calming moments. And just because Marcus said that he's going to be focusing on something new, a different subject, not really calling out his friends and family, doesn't mean he's not going to be calling out other people. We have the song Carbonize, which is about holding sexual abusers and predators in the musical industry accountable for the things that they've done, and not just forgetting about the different wrongs that they've done to people just because they come out with a really good sounding song. If somebody does something bad to somebody else, abuses them sexually or anything along those lines, and just because they come out with a really cool new song, it seems like fans move on from it. His words, not mine. It starts out with a dubstep kind of beat in the intro, and it's very stompy as it continues into the verse with some very strong vocals and a very strong vocal cadence. The chorus is fairly mellow compared to the rest of the song, with some clean vocals that are soaring. The bridge gets a little bit aggressive vocally, musically, and definitely lyrically, which is fairly appropriate for the song subject, I guess you could say. Then we have 2 singles that are back to back within the album. The first one is Clockwork, which has a very quick synthetic beat with slow, very long, drawn-out vocals, and brings out a lot of emotion. The blend of synthetic stuff with the guitar and the drums, it fills a lot of space, but it works really well, and it doesn't all sound like mush, which is kind of the issue I had with their past work, and it seems like they kind of worked that out. It sounds great to me. The distorted vocals sounds so good in the chorus with the staticky music, and then in the verses, everything just slows back down again. It's very smooth, very crisp sounding. The breakdown was just kind of meh, but it still works within the song, and it sounds great. And then the second single coming right after it was Echo Chamber. It's got like this ravey synthetic beat thing going on. It gets joined in by semi-distorted guitar and some drums. The chorus gets a little bit more presence while the synth stuff comes back in the background. It sounds great. The vocals are fantastic, and the song has a decent hook to it. The breakdown is pretty intense, but it has a lot of good transitions, and it builds up into a heavy outro. And honestly, Echo Chamber probably has, I don't know, there's a lot of good messages within the songs, but this one is great just because it's about social media, especially during the pandemic, and how everybody just had a hot take about everything, and we're all fighting and arguing, and we're all screaming into our own echo chamber, and people start arguing about stupid opinions that we have that don't really matter. And it just really resonated with me very well. And it's actually one of the reasons why I'm no longer on Facebook, really. And speaking of COVID and the lockdowns, we have the song Abomination, which is about the anxiety that Marcus experienced during the COVID lockdowns. The intro kind of reminds me a little bit of something that the Prodigy would have done. The choruses are fairly heavy with distorted music and clean vocals, while the verses are still heavy, but they get some snarly vocals. It sounds great. The breakdown is kind of interesting. It's more of a build-up. It's very suspenseful. It gets some clever synth effects thrown in there, and it's just, like I said, suspenseful. I love the very quick music mixed with the slow, drawn-out vocals. It just sounds great. And then we also have the song Plenty, which is about the pessimism about if you had the opportunity to relive this life, almost like an incarnation sort of thing, if you could come back and do things differently in this world and give the whole world a new start, like, would you? What would you do? Different type of thing. And he's kind of like, no, I don't. I've had enough of this world. I don't want anything to do with that. It starts out with some heavy chugging in the intro from the guitars that have a very dynamic riff, kind of hanging out in the background. It sounds fantastic. The chorus does bring that riff back, and it gets a little bit more vocal presence. And verse 2 is just so much angrier, and I love the buildup and the transitions throughout this song. And then we reach like an interlude section in this album, about halfway through with the song Is This a Test? It starts out with some high energy for the music, makes you want to get up and dance, but from the lack of lyrical stuff and the lack of diversity throughout this song, it definitely feels more like an interlude or like an intermission kind of song, even though it is quite long, coming in a little bit over 3 minutes or so. And the music is fantastic in it, and the heavy bass in the verses, it's quite heavy. And then we have the song directly after it, Zen. There's tons of dissonance from the guitars and the riff, and the vocals are just pushed so hard. And the chorus, the first time it comes around, it's just kind of meh. Like, it feels like a very dated sound. Even the hook and the melody, it's just all of it. It's all very dated sounding. But it does progress over time. I mean, like, the constant muted harmonics from the guitars and the verses becomes kind of tiring to the ears. But the interlude, about halfway through, helps bring this all together. And towards the end, it really starts to all make sense. And you got to give this song more than just one listen, because it really is a great song that you end up missing the first time through. And we have the song Cipher, which is basically just about Cipher, the character from The Matrix. It definitely has that movie soundtrack kind of vibe to it, but it also does fit the theme of today and the mentality of a lot of people today. They're like people want to live a perfect life. They want to be whatever they could be. And Cypher's like, just turn me into a battery. It's fine. I'll get to be who I want to be within this type of world, I guess. And the melody that's playing behind the riff is very fitting. It's kind of haunting and creepy. The chorus is vocally just absolutely intense with some vocal growls to it. The bridge has a quote from Alan Watts, I believe, and it's followed by a pretty heavy breakdown. And then we have the song Nova, which it's probably one of my favorite songs on this album. It's super chill. It has a really nice, relaxing beat to it, and the vocal delivery is very, very chill as well. I absolutely love the mixture of the music with the lyrics and the vocals. I was a little worried that the chorus would be a little bit more rockier, but it's not. They kept it very calm. It hit just right. They bring out like a piano melody. It sounds absolutely beautiful. And the placement of this track within all the songs in the album, it's just perfect. It's the perfect timing for it. It works so well. And it gives you that break that you need, because there's just so much going on within this album. And this one just helps you to just sit down and relax before they jump right back into it again. Then we have the song Intermorata, which is Italian for female lover. The music and the vocals in the song kind of keep building on top of each other, adding more and more elements. I gotta admit, the vocals are kind of sitting back in the mix a little bit, which I didn't care for all that much. In fact, they don't get any more like vocal presence until the end of the chorus, where they break up and they get a little bit louder, a little bit more distorted. Verse 2 does get a little genty with some chuggy guitars. The vocals do become louder and more aggressive though as the song moves on. It's surprisingly atmospheric, and the lyrics are probably the best lyrics on this entire album. They're just so hopeful, and they show a lot of healing. And even though I started out not really caring that much for this song, it definitely grew on me. Even by the time the song was over, I was like, you know what, this song's actually pretty dope. Then we have the title track song, Obsidian, which is about people who only care about themselves. It's like if you experience something or you see something that doesn't affect you directly, it's like you just don't really care all that much. And there's lots of stuff in the intro building on top of each other. The clean vocals are kind of echoey. Then it takes a heavy turn. It becomes probably one of the most brutal moments on this album from just the vocals and the music. It all becomes just very heavy. And the breakdown is, I would say, pretty basic like most other breakdowns on this album, but it's definitely the best on this album. This is a solid title track. Then we have the closing track, Dark Solitaire. This is basically Marcus acknowledging that his mental health isn't doing too good. His anxiety and depression, he just can't ignore it anymore. And he's starting to realize that moping around and just laying in bed all day, these different things aren't really helping him out, and it's not helping him to get over it all that much. It starts out with a trickling synth beat that has a very dark guitar riff to it. And then the melody and the verse is very gleaming, something we haven't heard yet on this album. It sounds fantastic. The chorus is very powerful, yet very vulnerable as the lyrics and just the vocal delivery, all of it is just so great. The breakdown is gnarly with some fantastic drum work. The song closes with this kind of like beeping sort of melody thing, kind of reminds me of a video game. And Marcus stated saying that this album, it doesn't feel complete with this song, but to me it does, because it's basically like the journey from like dealing with COVID and just stuff that was going on social media for him and stuff going on in his personal life. And now he's just realizing just how much all this has been weighing on him mentally, and he just can't do it anymore. And now he's starting to realize that he needs help and he needs to start doing something because all this has been damaging to him. I absolutely love this album so much more than I thought that I ever would. The songs have a beautiful progression to them, while the storytelling is also fantastic. I gotta admit, there's not a whole lot of variety from the instruments per se, but the way they blend the synth stuff in there, it does more than make up for it. There is a lot of variety in, I guess, the emotion and just overall feel of the songs. Like there's a lot of heavy, just emotionally heavy moments throughout this album. And then there's also a lot of calm moments too that gives you those kind of like hills and valleys to it. The lyrical content is super creative. It's very well written. The one things I didn't really care for that much throughout this album is that I do wish that there was a little bit more riffage to it, a little bit more guitar playing moments. I mean, there was some really good stuff on this album, but there's only like maybe 3 things I could really think of. And also the distorted vocals were just okay. Sometimes when they were really heavy, they were really good, but when they were just kind of staticky, like they had an effect on them, just wasn't really feeling it. And then also musically, there was just some weird stuff, like in the song Zen. The outro, it's kind of weird. It's very long. It's like 2 minutes long, and it's like this weird underwater, I don't know. It sounds like you're floating through space maybe, but it goes on for about 2 minutes, and you think it's going to build up into the following song, Cipher, and it doesn't. It just goes, and then it's just over, and it kind of makes you question why they did that. So with all that said, I got to give Obsidian by Northlane a 8.7 out of 10. But I want to know what you guys think. Like I said, I'm not really a Northlane fan. This is my first time experiencing an album and really dissecting it as much as I could. So yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what people who have been fans of the band for a long time are thinking of this new album. So leave a comment below letting me know what you thought, what you would rate it, and let me know what your favorite song is. And while you're down there, let me know what I should review next. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, don't forget to give it a thumbs down and let me know why you think I'm wrong about certain things. Maybe you think this album sucks. I don't know. Leave a comment below letting me know why you would disagree with anything I have to say. And if you want to help support me and my channel, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell icon. Doing any of that stuff helps me out more than you guys could ever imagine, and I appreciate it so much more than words could ever say. And thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to listen to me talk, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day or night, whenever you happen to be watching this, and I will talk to you guys next time.
I was trying to make it lying